The night was heavy with secrets. Dark clouds covered the moon like a hidden eye, and the wind moved through the tall grass of Kijana village with a low whisper, as if the land itself was warning someone. Far away, drums sounded slowly, doom, 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 from a shrine near the river. Elders said those drums only spoke when destiny was about to turn. Inside a small clay house at the edge of the village, Zelika sat alone by the fire. She was a black woman with tired eyes but a strong back. Firelight danced on her dark skin, showing the marks of hard years. The smell of burning wood mixed with dry herbs hung in the air. Outside, insects sang, and a night bird cried once, then went silent. Zelika had been divorced for one full season. In Kijana village, divorce was not just the breaking of marriage. It was the breaking of pride, family, and protection. When her husband Kato, a hunter from a respected clan, sent her away, many people turned their faces from her. Some whispered that she was cursed. Others said she brought bad luck. But Zelika knew the truth. She remembered how Kato changed after his mother, Mama Songa, took full control of his spirit. Mama Songa was feared in the village. She was known as a woman who spoke sweet words in daylight and sharp curses at night. Some said she visited the forest alone and returned with red eyes. Others said ancestors listened to her more than they listened to elders. Zelika had tried to endure. She cooked. She fetched water. She bent her head. She stayed silent even when lies were spoken against her name. But one night, after a long hunt, Kato listened to his mother instead of his wife. He chased Zelika out with nothing but the clothes she wore. That night, rain fell like tears from the sky. Zelika returned to her late father's old house near the forest, a place people avoided. It was close to the whispering trees, where spirits were said to pass at night. Elders warned her not to stay there, but she had no choice. Now, seasons later, she survived alone. She sold herbs. She helped women give birth. She listened more than she spoke. And slowly, the forest stopped frightening her. Sometimes, she felt watched, but not with hatred. With patience. That night, as the fire crackled, Zelika's thoughts were broken by a sharp sound. Krr, krr. A phone vibrated beside her mat. Her heart tightened. Few people called her now. She stared at the screen. The name made her blood turn cold. Mama Songa. Her ex-mother-in-law. The drums outside stopped. Even the insects went quiet. Zelika did not answer at first. Her fingers trembled. Old memories rushed back, insults, curses, laughter behind her back, and the day she was chased out like a thief. The phone vibrated again. Longer this time. Demanding. Finally, Zelika answered. Her voice was calm, but her heart was beating like a trapped bird. Hello. Mama Songa's voice came through the phone, sharp and urgent. Zelika. Your husband is in the hospital. He is between life and death. Bring the money. Now. No greeting. No apology. Only command. Zelika's lips parted, but no words came out at first. The fire popped loudly. What happened? Zelika asked quietly. Mama Songa hissed. Do not ask useless questions. The doctors want payment. If you ever loved him, you will come. Loved him. Zelika felt something twist inside her, not love, not anger, but something darker and colder. I am no longer his wife, Zelika said slowly. Mama Songa laughed. It was a dry, bitter laugh. You shared his bed. You shared his spirit. You cannot escape what is tied by blood and ancestors. Bring the money before sunrise. The call ended. The phone went dark. For a long moment, Zelika did not move. The wind pushed against the walls of the house. Somewhere in the forest, branches cracked. The firelight flickered like nervous eyes. Zelika stood up slowly. She walked outside. The moon finally broke through the clouds, painting the land silver. The savannah stretched wide, quiet but alive. In the distance, the Nyota River glimmered like a long snake. Elders said that river remembered every lie ever spoken near it. Zelika clenched her fists. Money. They had taken everything from her when she was chased out. Even the goats her father gave her. Even her marriage gifts. Mama Songa knew this. Yet she still demanded money. Not because she needed help, but because she believed Zelika was still weak. Zelika felt a strange pull in her chest, like an unseen hand guiding her thoughts. She turned toward the forest. The whispering trees swayed even though there was no strong wind. Their leaves rustled softly, like voices speaking a name. Zelika. Her breath caught. She had heard that sound before, in dreams. She remembered her grandmother's words long ago. When injustice grows fat, the ancestors wake. Zelika walked closer to the trees. The air grew cooler. The smell of earth and old leaves filled her nose. Somewhere deeper inside, a drumbeat started again, slow, patient, powerful. She knelt on the ground. If you are listening, she whispered into the night, show me the truth. Show me why they call me now. The wind answered, brushing her face like a gentle hand. In that moment, Zelika did not yet know that the hospital call was not just about sickness. It was about debt, secrets, and a betrayal buried long before her divorce. And before this story ended, blood would meet truth, and the proud would kneel where the rejected once stood. Far away, in a cold hospital room, Kato groaned in his sleep. And Mama Songa smiled, unaware that she had just awakened something ancient. Morning came slowly over Kijana village, painted in pale gold and dust. Roosters crowed, goats bleated, and women stepped out of their huts with clay pots balanced on their heads. Life moved as it always did, but beneath the normal sounds, the land felt uneasy. Zelika did not sleep. The call from Mama Songa stayed in her mind like a thorn. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the whispering trees bending toward her, heard the drums speaking without words. Before the sun rose fully, Zelika wrapped herself in a brown cloth and tied her hair back. She picked up a small leather bag that held her savings, coins, folded notes, and cowrie shells used for spiritual work. It was not much, but it was all she had built with pain and patience. As she stepped outside, the wind shifted. It blew from the forest toward the village, carrying the smell of wet soil and old smoke. Zelika felt it brush her spine, and she paused. A deep calm settled over her, mixed with quiet strength. She locked her father's old door and began the long walk toward the main road. Along the path, elders sat on low stools, chewing cola nuts and speaking in low voices. When they saw Zelika, some looked away. Others stared with curiosity. News traveled fast in villages like smoke on dry grass. An old woman named Elder Nanyuki, known for speaking to ancestors through dreams, stood as Zelika passed. Child, Nanyuki called softly. Zelika stopped and turned. The old woman's eyes were cloudy, but sharp. The past does not stay buried forever, Nanyuki said. Be careful where you place your feet today. Zelika bowed her head in respect. Thank you, Elder. She continued walking, her heart beating faster. The hospital stood far from the village, beyond the savannah and near the foothills of the mountains. It was a place of white walls and cold smells, where machines hummed instead of drums. When Zelika arrived, the sun was high. She hesitated at the entrance. The building felt wrong to her spirit. Too quiet. Too clean. Too disconnected from the earth. Inside, the air smelled of medicine and fear. At the front desk, a young nurse looked up. Who are you here to see? Kato, son of Songa, Zelika said. The nurse nodded and pointed down a long hallway. Zelika walked slowly, each step heavy. Memories flooded her mind, Kato's laughter when they were young, his silence when his mother whispered poison into his ears. Outside Kato's room, Mama Songa stood like a carved statue. She wore an expensive wrapper and gold earrings. Her head was held high, but her eyes were restless. When she saw Zelika, her lips curled. So you came, Mama Songa said. Zelika said nothing. Mama Songa moved closer. Where is the money? Zelika met her eyes. First, I want to see him. Mama Songa scoffed but stepped aside. The room was dim. Machines beeped softly. Kato lay on the bed, his body thin, his face pale. Tubes ran from his arms like vines stealing life. His chest rose and fell unevenly. Zelika's breath caught. Despite everything, pain stirred in her heart. She moved closer and looked at him carefully. Then she noticed something strange. Marks. Dark lines, faint but clear, ran along his arms and neck, symbols she had seen before in the forest, drawn by herbalists who dealt with forbidden spirits. Her stomach tightened. She turned to Mama Songar. "What did you do to him?" Mama Songar's face hardened. "Watch your mouth." "This is not sickness," Zalika said quietly. "This is spiritual." Mama Songar laughed sharply. "You think you know everything now because you talk to trees?" Zalika stepped back. A memory surfaced. Mama Songar visiting the forest at night, returning with strange powders. Kato becoming restless, angry, unrecognizable. Suddenly, a doctor entered. "He needs immediate payment," the doctor said. "Without it, we cannot continue treatment." Mama Songar turned to Zalika and stretched out her hand. Zalika reached into her bag and placed the money on the table. Mama Songar counted quickly, her eyes greedy. "This is not enough," she snapped. "It is all I have," Zalika replied. Mama Songar leaned closer, her voice low and sharp. "Then sell your land. Sell your body if you must. If he dies, his blood will be on your hands." Zalika felt fire rise in her chest, but she remained calm. "I will not," she said. Mama Songar's eyes flashed with anger. "You think you are free. You are nothing without us." Zalika turned away and left the room. As she stepped outside, her legs trembled. She sat on a bench under a tree and closed her eyes. The wind rose suddenly, strong and warm. In her mind, a voice whispered, not loud, but firm. "Follow the truth hidden in the past." Zalika opened her eyes. She knew then that Kato's sickness was not an accident. Someone had traded something for power. And the debt was now being collected. Back in the village, Mama Songar returned home that evening. She did not notice the old hunter watching her from the shadows. His name was Barlow, a man who once guarded sacred ground. He spat on the earth. "The ancestors are angry," he muttered. "And they are coming." That night, thunder rolled across the mountains. And Zalika dreamed of blood-stained cowries floating down the Nyota River. Rain fell hard through the night, washing the dust from the savannah and filling the Nyota River until it sang loudly against its banks. Thunder shook the mountains like angry drums, and lightning split the sky again and again. Zalika woke before dawn, her heart pounding. The dream still burned in her mind, cowrie shells stained red, floating down the river while unseen hands reached from the water. She sat up on her mat, breathing slowly. The air in the hut felt thick, heavy with meaning. "This is not fear," she whispered to herself. "This is a calling." She wrapped herself in a dark cloth and stepped outside. The rain had stopped, but the earth was wet and alive. Mist rose from the ground, curling around her ankles. Birds were silent, as if waiting. Zalika walked toward the forest. The whispering trees stood tall, their leaves dripping with water. As she stepped beneath them, the wind stirred again, though the air beyond the forest was still. "Zalika," the leaves murmured. She did not run. She knelt and placed her palms on the earth, just as her grandmother once taught her. "I seek truth," she said. "Not revenge. Not anger. Only truth." The forest answered. A sharp smell of herbs filled the air. The trees creaked slowly, opening a narrow path she had never seen before. At the end of the path stood a small hut made of mud and bones, hidden by vines. Zalika's breath caught. Only one person in Kijana village lived that deep in the forest. Elder Mokel. He was older than memory. Some said he was half spirit, half man. Others said he had died once and returned wrong. Children were warned never to follow his footprints. Zalika approached carefully. "Mokel," she called softly. The door opened by itself. Inside, smoke curled around hanging charms, animal skulls, and dried roots. The smell of earth and blood mixed in the air. At the center sat Elder Mokel, his eyes white as ash but shining. "You come late," he said. Zalika swallowed. "I did not know where to look before." Mokel smiled without warmth. Truth hides until pain sharpens the eyes. She sat across from him. "My former husband is dying," Zalika said. "His sickness carries dark marks. His mother sent me to bring money. I feel this is not the full story. Mokel tapped the ground with his staff. The debt of blood has a long memory, he said. Mama Songar came to me many seasons ago. Zalika's heart raced. Why? She was afraid of being forgotten, Mokel said. Afraid of losing power. Afraid her son would love another more than her. Zalika felt cold spread through her chest. Mama Songar asked for a binding, Mokel continued. A spell to tie her son's spirit to her will. To make him obey her voice above all others. Zalika's hands trembled. But such power demands a price, Mokel said. I warned her. What price? Zalika asked. Mokel's voice dropped. A life from the household. One connected by love, not blood. Zalika's breath stopped. Me, she whispered. Mokel nodded slowly. Your suffering fed the spell. Your tears strengthened it. When Kato cast you out, the binding became complete. Zalika's eyes burned, but she did not cry. And now? She asked. Power rots, Mokel said. Mama Songar used the binding too many times. She forced her son to hunt beyond his strength, to bring wealth and honor. The spirits grew angry. What of Kato's sickness? Zalika asked. The ancestors have come to collect, Mokel said. The debt has returned to the one who caused it. Zalika stood up, shaking. All this pain, for control, she said. Yes, Mokel replied. And now she seeks to shift the cost to you again. Zalika's jaw tightened. I will not carry her burden anymore, she said firmly. Mokel studied her. Then you must choose. Walk away and let fate finish its work, or face Mama Songar with the truth and break the binding. What happens if I break it? Zalika asked. The truth will burn, Mokel said. Some will fall. Some will be exposed. And you will no longer be invisible. Zalika thought of the hospital room. Of Kato's pale face. Of Mama Songar's greedy hands. I choose truth, Zalika said. Mokel nodded and reached into a gourd. He poured cowrie shells onto a mat. They landed in a pattern that made the fire crack loudly. The ritual must be done at the Nyota River, he said. At night. When the moon is full. The moon rises tonight, Zalika said. Yes, Mokel replied. Because the ancestors are done waiting. He handed Zalika a small bundle of herbs tied with red thread. This will protect your spirit, he said. But your courage must do the rest. Zalika bowed deeply and left the hut. As she walked back, the forest felt different. Lighter. As if it approved of her choice. That evening, Zalika returned to the village. Whispers followed her. Some said she glowed. Others said shadows moved at her feet. Mama Songar sat outside her house, counting money. When she saw Zalika, her smile was thin. You came back, Mama Songar said. Good. The hospital wants more. Zalika looked at her calmly. The ancestors want more. Mama Songar froze. You should not speak that name lightly, she hissed. Zalika leaned closer. Tonight, meet me at the Nyota River. Bring the truth you buried. Mama Songar's eyes widened, then narrowed. You think you can command me? Zalika turned away. No, she said. But the spirits can. Thunder growled softly in the distance. Mama Songar watched Zalika leave, a flicker of fear crossing her face for the first time. That night, the full moon rose red over the river. And the truth prepared to surface. The full moon climbed slowly into the sky, round and red, as if it had risen through blood before reaching the heavens. Its light spread across Nyota River, turning the water into a moving mirror of fire and shadow. The river sang loudly that night. Its voice was deep and restless, crashing against stones, carrying secrets from the mountains to the lowlands. Palm trees bent toward it, their leaves shaking like nervous fingers. Zalika stood on the riverbank alone at first. She wore a simple white cloth, clean and unadorned. The bundle of herbs from Elder Mokel hung at her waist. The cool night wind touched her skin, raising goosebumps, but her spine was straight. She closed her eyes and breathed. Drums began to sound in the distance, slow, heavy, ancient. No one in the village was playing them. Zalika knew this sound came from beyond flesh. Soon, footsteps approached. Mama Songar emerged from the darkness, her face hard, her shoulders wrapped in dark cloth. Behind her walked Barlow the hunter, his spear resting against his shoulder. Two elders followed at a distance, uneasy but curious. Mama Songar stopped when she reached the water. "What foolishness is this?" she snapped. "You drag elders into the night like children." Zalika turned to face her. "This river remembers," Zalika said calmly. "It will speak tonight." Mama Songar laughed, but her laughter cracked. "You are nothing. A divorced woman without clan or husband." Zalika stepped closer to the water. "I was nothing," she said, "until I learned the truth." The wind rose suddenly, whipping Mama Songar's cloth. Barlow frowned. "The air is heavy," he said. "We should listen." Mama Songar shot him a sharp look but said nothing. Zalika untied the red-threaded herbs and placed them gently into the river. The water hissed softly, glowing faintly where the herbs touched. The elders gasped. Mama Songar stepped back. "Stop this madness." Zalika's voice grew stronger. "You bound your son's spirit to your will. You fed that binding with my suffering." The river surged. Mama Songar's face twisted. "Lies." A low rumble came from beneath the ground. The water rose higher, swirling, and then a shape formed in the mist, an ancestral figure, tall and shadowed, with eyes like burning coals. The elders fell to their knees. Barlow dropped his spear. Mama Songar screamed and tried to run, but her feet would not move. The spirit's voice echoed, layered with many voices. "Songar." Mama Songar shook violently. "Forgive me. I only wanted to protect my son." The spirit raised its hand. "You wanted control." Images burst into the air like smoke, Mama Songar kneeling before Elder Mokel, offering blood and cowries, Cato hunting beyond exhaustion, Zalika crying alone under rain as she was chased from her home. Zalika's chest tightened. Tears ran down her face, but she did not look away. Cato's voice suddenly joined the night. A weak cry echoed from the far side of the river. Everyone turned. Cato stood there, leaning on a stick, his hospital gown covered by a blanket. His face was pale, his eyes sunken, but awake. Mama Songar gasped. "My son." Cato stepped forward slowly. "I heard everything," he said weakly. "In my dreams, and now with my eyes." He looked at Zalika. Shame filled his face. "I listened to her lies," he whispered. "I let her poison my heart." Mama Songar reached for him. "I did this for you." Cato pulled away. "You did this for yourself." The ancestral spirit spoke again. "The binding can be broken." Zalika stepped forward, her voice trembling but clear. "I release what was taken from me. My pain is no longer payment." The river roared. Mama Songar screamed as dark marks appeared on her arms, the same symbols that once covered Cato. "No," she cried. "This was not the agreement." The spirit's voice was cold. "Power without love always returns home." Mama Songar collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Cato fell as well, gasping, as the dark marks faded from his skin. Silence fell. The wind softened. The ancestral figure slowly dissolved into mist, sinking back into the river. The elders remained on the ground, shaking. Zalika stood still, breathing hard. Cato crawled toward her and stopped at her feet. "I am sorry," he said, tears falling. "I see now. I was blind." Zalika looked down at him. Her heart ached, but something inside her had changed forever. "This is not about forgiveness tonight," she said softly. "This is about truth." Mama Songar lifted her head, her face empty and broken. "What will become of me?" she whispered. Zalika turned to her. "That is for the ancestors to decide," she said. Thunder rolled once more, then faded. The moon's red glow softened into silver. Zalika turned away from both of them and walked back toward the village. Behind her, Mama Songar wept. Cato watched her leave, knowing something precious had been lost forever. And the Nyota River carried the last of the lies away. The village did not sleep that night. Word spread like wildfire through Kajana village, about the river, the spirit, the truth that rose from the water like a buried bone. By dawn, people gathered in small circles, whispering, pointing, arguing. Fear and curiosity walked side by side. Zelika returned to her father's old house near the forest as the first light touched the land. Her body was tired, but her spirit felt sharp and awake. She washed her face with cold water and sat by the doorway, listening to the morning sounds. Birds sang again. The land was no longer holding its breath. But peace did not last. By midday, drums began to beat, not spirit drums, but human ones. Loud. Urgent. Calling. Zelika rose slowly. She knew that sound. It was the drum of judgment. At the center of the village, under the great baobab tree, elders gathered on carved stools. Warriors stood in a circle, spears pointed downward. Women and children crowded behind them. Mama Songar sat on the ground in the middle. Her proud back was bent. Her hair was loose and dusty. Dark marks still covered her arms faintly, like fading scars. Her eyes were empty, staring at the earth. Kato sat a short distance away, weak but alive, supported by Barlow the hunter. When Zelika arrived, the crowd shifted. Some people looked at her with fear. Others with respect. Others with guilt. Elder Nanyuki raised her hand. "Let the woman speak," she said. Zelika stepped forward. The sun was hot on her skin. Dust swirled around her feet. She felt the eyes of the ancestors watching through the leaves of the baobab. "I did not come to destroy," Zelika said clearly. "I came because truth called me." Mama Songar laughed weakly. "Truth," she spat. "You came to shame me." "You shamed yourself," Zelika replied, her voice steady. "You traded love for control. You fed power with pain." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elder Mokel appeared from the edge of the gathering, leaning on his staff. The people stepped back in fear and respect. "The debt has reached its peak," Mokel said. "This is the moment of balance." Elder Nanyuki nodded. "Then the truth must be fully spoken." All eyes turned to Mama Songar. Her shoulders shook. "I only wanted my son to rise," Mama Songar cried. "I did not want to be forgotten when he became great." Kato stood with effort. "You forgot me first," he said quietly. "You took my will. You made me cruel." Mama Songar reached toward him, but he stepped back. Tears streamed down her face. "I am his mother." "And she was his wife," Barlow said firmly, pointing at Zelika. "You broke sacred order." The wind rose suddenly, spinning dust into the air. The baobab leaves rattled loudly. A deep presence filled the space, unseen, but heavy. Elder Mokel lifted his staff. "The ancestors demand payment," he said. "Not money. Not blood. Truth and consequence." Mama Songar screamed. "No." The ground beneath her cracked slightly, and a low moan rose from the earth. The crowd cried out and fell back. Dark smoke curled around Mama Songar's legs. Her voice changed, deep, layered. "I see them," she whispered in terror. "They are angry." Zelika stepped forward, heart pounding. She could feel the pull again, the same one from the forest. She knelt. "I ask for release," Zelika said. "Not revenge. Let what is broken be made right." The smoke shifted. The wind blew harder. The ancestral voice returned, unseen but powerful. "The one who used pain shall carry shame." Mama Songar screamed as the smoke rose and then burst apart like ash. The dark marks on her body burned bright, then faded completely. She collapsed face first into the dust. Silence followed. Slowly, Mama Songar lifted her head. The arrogance was gone. Her eyes were dull, empty of power. Elder Nanyuki stood. "From this day," she declared, "Mama Songar will no longer hold authority. She will live among the widows and the poor she once mocked. Her name will not be spoken in council." The crowd murmured approval. Mama Songar sobbed loudly. Kato fell to his knees. "I accept my punishment," he said. "I lost a good woman. I allowed darkness into my home." He turned to Zelika. "Please," he said. "Stay. Let us rebuild. Zelika looked at him for a long moment. She remembered the rain, the exile, the loneliness. Then she shook her head. Some bridges burn so the soul can cross rivers, she said softly. She turned away. The wind calmed. The drums stopped. The climax had passed, but the final lesson was yet to be spoken. As Zelika walked back toward the forest path, the whispering trees swayed gently, welcoming her. Behind her, Kijana village stood changed forever. The season changed quietly. Rains came on time. Crops grew tall. The Nyota River flowed calmly again, no longer restless with buried lies. In Kijana village, life returned to its rhythm, but nothing was the same. Power had shifted. Truth had settled like deep roots in the soil. Zelika no longer lived in her father's old house. She had moved closer to the forest, where the land opened into gentle hills and wide grass. There, she built a new home with her own hands. Women came to help her, bringing mud, water, laughter, and stories. No one whispered when she passed anymore. They greeted her with respect. Children followed her steps, curious and unafraid. Zelika became known as a woman who listened, to people, to land, to silence. She healed with herbs. She spoke when needed and stayed quiet when words would harm. Elders invited her to sit near them, not behind them. At night, she often sat by her fire, watching sparks rise into the dark sky like prayers. Far across the village, Mama Songa lived a different life. She stayed in a small hut near the edge of the land, among widows and forgotten women. Her fine clothes were gone. Her gold jewelry sold. She fetched her own water now. She swept her own floor. Some nights, she cried until her voice broke. Other nights, she sat in silence, staring at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. Power had left her. And without power, she finally felt the weight of her actions. Kato recovered slowly. The sickness left his body, but not his memory. He walked with a limp now and kept his head low. He hunted only enough to eat, never to boast. Often, he sat alone by the river, watching the water move. Once, he came to Zelika's home. He stood at a distance, unsure. "I do not ask for forgiveness," he said. "Only to say I see you now." Zelika nodded. "Seeing is the beginning," she replied. "Not the ending." He bowed and left. The ancestors were satisfied, but not silent. One evening, Elder Nanyuki called a gathering under the baobab tree. The air was warm, the sky painted orange and purple. Drums beat softly, steady and respectful. Zelika stood among the people. Elder Nanyuki raised her voice. "Let this story be remembered," she said. "Not as gossip, not as shame, but as teaching." She pointed her staff toward the forest, then toward the village. "When love is replaced by control," the elder said, "darkness enters the home. When elders misuse power, the ancestors do not sleep." The crowd listened closely. Elder Mokel stepped forward, his voice deep and slow. "The land watches," he said. "The river listens. Spirits record what mouths deny." He looked at Mama Songa, sitting quietly at the back. "Pain given to others does not disappear," he continued. "It returns, sometimes with interest." Zelika felt the wind brush her face gently, like approval. That night, as the moon rose, Zelika walked alone to the Nyota River. She knelt and placed her hand in the cool water. "Thank you," she whispered, not just to the ancestors, but to herself. She had survived exile. She had faced truth without becoming cruel. She had chosen release over revenge. The water flowed smoothly around her fingers. In the distance, drums faded into silence. As seasons passed, travelers carried the story beyond Kijana village, to other villages, other rivers, other firesides. They told of a woman who was rejected, yet stood firm. Of a mother-in-law who confused control with love. Of ancestors who reminded humans that power must walk with humility. And the moral was spoken clearly, again and again. When you build power on another person's pain, the ancestors will tear it down. When you choose truth over revenge, you rise without chains. And when love is replaced by control, even blood ties will break. Zelika stood tall in her new life, no longer defined by divorce, loss, or betrayal. She was defined by wisdom. The fire burned low. The night listened. And the land remembered.